Denard, Mike, how's your week been, man? How's your week been?
Hmm.
Go ahead, Denard.
Um, I guess I would say interesting. I would say that for the most part, I'm looking at my feelings wheel that I just got out of the session. I would say 1 week has been surprising. When you have people come, so I'm that friend that I don't clean till somebody comes to my house, right?
Oh, okay.
So
Okay.
yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, don't act like y'all see some of y'all
Same.
be
I'm
acting like
same. Yep,
y'all
that's me.
yeah,
Yep.
exactly. So just know my friends look put together when you come to my house. Other than that, I'm disheveled. So I would say that's my week. I look put together when I need to be put together, but I'm disheveled whenever I need to be, and I'm happy. I'm happy that I have that opportunity. So that's been my week.
Okay. All right. What about you, Mike?
Mm. Ooh, mine has been it's been a pretty activating week. I've had a couple of rupture and repair moments in the course of this last week. All leading up to I posted my very first YouTube video yesterday, all quiet in the depth of the
Wow.
night and everything, and it's one of those things where uh, I'm trying to do the putting my voice out without it having to look like, sound like, or feel like anybody else's. And so there's a really
Yeah. Yeah.
um, a deep sensitivity to it that I feel like has been running the whole week of mine. And so it's felt very exposing
Mm.
and activating, yet on the other side of even posting and going into the aftermath and my aftercare, there's a contentment and a satisfaction in, yeah, your voice.
Okay. Yeah.
So
Yeah. That's what's up. Man, y'all explain things so well. I
Well,
envy how you and Denard use words. It's just like,
well, well, you use words. You just use them to attack others. So I wanna ask you how. Yeah,
oh.
yeah. So, Darth Vader, how has your week been?
first of all, Denard, I make up words.
Oh, okay.
Second of all, we ain't talking about me. We talking about y'all. So,
Oh, okay.
Oh, wait,
I
wait, you ain't
wanted
part of the
to.
group? Wait, hold up a
I,
second.
I,
What you doing, Beyonce? Hold on.
yeah. So
Right. I don't even
I
want.
just thought.
Let me tell y'all something. I have had a tough couple of weeks. I'm talking about tough. Some of the members of circles and heard about it. It's been so tough. Just heavy. A lot of decisions that got to be made. Some relational decisions that are in the air that I'm just feeling so disrupted about, and all kind of things, and feeling lonely, and all those kind of things going in there. I was sitting the other day, I was like, man, God, thank you. I got at least got some knowledge, some tools, and even more importantly, some wisdom um, under my belt because it's been tough. It's been tough, but I'm navigating it. I'm navigating it. But I don't even like when people, I ask people, how you doing? Don't ask me, though. Ask me something else.
Yes,
Ask me
yeah,
something
but I
else.
really said thank you, Denard, for backing my man's up into a corner and be like,
Dang.
nah, nah,
Right.
nah.
In public,
We
too.
all share.
Dang.
This is a harmony. This is a harmony of
Yes.
intimacy. This is what we doing.
Dang.
Yes.
Dang.
I do appreciate what you shared, man, because and I don't and I'm just definitely gonna tell you like I will share this Mike um and Zard like the reality of when I reflected on where your prompts and things were taking me on everything, it really took me back to the two spaces where outside of this space, you've all checked in on me. And in this space, you all showed kind of like what you just shared here, Mike, your voice, right? Your voice, how and now I'm actually in my spaces that I'm having a chance to walk with people. I'm starting to really hear the timbre of their voice, the tone of their voice, and even the thing that I'm trying to say here is I hear you, Mike. And immediately when you were sharing one, I realized that no one can be Mike, right? So I don't care for the aftermath of the societal expectations anymore, right? No one can be Denard, right? There's few people with my name, first and foremost. But then secondly, no one can be a relationality coach that goes by the name of Czar. So, but I love the fact that no one can be us, and wisdom that you talk about that people just started documenting 5,000 years ago still is not sufficient to kind of carry us through those tough moments, right? So we got to lean on more than just ourselves, right? And that's why spaces like this is important. So y'all took me back into a moment, and I'm honestly saying, I thank goodness my week hasn't been what it has been, right?
Mm,
And
mm,
so that to me has been a reflection, as you both shared.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, folks, welcome to Sensational, Relational, Inspirational Healing Journey. All right, we're gonna just jump into it. I want to give just a quick little briefing, quick little briefing, just for the sake of those that are fairly new. Any new hands? Anybody this your first week with us? Just show of hand, show of hand. Don't open your mic. Just show your hand. First week with us. Okay, a couple of people first week with us. So just so you know, these sessions you may have saw when you were coming in, just a real quick rundown, real quick. Sessions are recorded. These are recorded, unlike all of the other circle sessions, but these are recorded. All right, so be careful, or be mindful. I don't even say be careful. Be mindful. Just be mindful of what you share. Don't give your bank account number. Don't give the password to your vault. All right, because you can share with me, Denard, and Mike later, but don't give it publicly. Right, unless you want everybody else in your business in that kind of way. But still feel free to kind of share as you feel comfortable when we get to that portion of things. I'm gonna ask that everybody make sure that you don't just blurt out. Please raise your hand, and then let us call on you so that we can kind of navigate through this last week. Well, through this week of this particular session. All right, folks, y'all with us? Everybody with us? All lines clear? Lines clear? Clear lines? Let me see some emojis. Let me just see that. I just want to make sure y'all app is working right. I know sometimes there's a few glitch. Okay, a couple
Oh,
people's
you
is
know
working.
what? You know what?
It look like it's working, bro. I think it's working today. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's working today. All right. Let's get into it. Let's get into it, fellas. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, right now we are in the closing of this wounding event. So we started off the first week talking about the very beginning. So, wounding event being the challenge that entered our lives or that we became aware of in our lives. Some kind of loss, some kind of huge change, some kind of revelation, some kind of betrayal, et cetera, and so forth. So, in that beginning, there's a wound, there's us becoming aware of it, and how do we get used to this situation that we've just entered. Now everything is upside down, inside out, and there are some tools, there are some words, there are some people that supported us in being able to orient ourselves with this new reality that we've entered. And then last week we were talking about the aftermath. The aftermath of that is us coming to terms with what that wounding event was. We've oriented. Now we're starting to learn. We're coming to terms with, oh, this actually happened, and this is what I was feeling on. Oh, these are some more clues. And at the same time, I'm coming to terms with this. I have to tend to the wound. I have to tend to the pain. I have
Mhm.
to tend to the mending of things that were broken and torn. I have to replace things that were lost, or just go ahead and grieve that. Now we're coming to the closing of the wounding event. And I'm going to put all of that context over in the chat. And so with the ending, we went from the beginning to the in between to the ending. We talk about how healing is a lifelong journey, but not all wounds take a lifetime to heal.
That's good.
There's just a point to the fact that we have wounds that are plentiful and more wounds that will occur.
Mhm.
And so the ending, we're talking about this particular wounding event. And so we're coming to the close. The arrived at terms, and I was talking about us coming to terms with that wounding event. We've arrived at some terms in this closing part, and that's going to become how we perceive, how we see, and how we experience the world going forward. If we've integrated all of that stuff in there, then we might have clarified a lens, and we might the spot that we couldn't see, our blind spots, as it were, are now able to be seen because we had some experience there. Or if we've arrived at some different terms, like, oh, well, I can't deal with that kind of person anymore, then our lens is fixated in a certain direction. And that's the lens that we see because we've arrived at those terms. So that's what that part is. And then that part that we were doing where we were tending to the wound becomes now we don't have to tend to the wound so much. It's all about on-call support. Every once in a while, we'll step a certain way, hear a word, be reminded of something, and a pain will reverberate through us. A trauma or a set of emotions will reverberate through us. And so we need some on-call support. And so we'll gather up all of our resources, all of our tools, we'll go and deal with that particular crisis, and then that support can go away as we regulate again. But that then becomes basic tending. It becomes a part of how we tend to our whole self, our whole comprehensive practicing. And so with that, questions that I have. It's all about tending, practice activity, and tending supports and feelings. The first set of tending, practice, or activity. What is your go-to wound or self-tending practice or activity? When you get to a crisis situation, or when you've slacked for a while, you need to get jump started. What's your go-to wound or self-tending practice or activity? What is your regular wound or self-tending practice or activity? The thing that you're doing on a regular basis. You do it every week, every couple of days, every week, every day. Your regular one.
Like healthy or not healthy?
I'm going to leave that up to you. Whatever is showing up for you is exactly the thing that you need to be hearing right now. So I appreciate that. I appreciate that question, and that's exactly what these questions are about. Bringing up what's showing up for you, because maybe you need to shift away from it. Maybe you need to do more of it. Maybe you need to do less of it. But this is the part of that process. Thank you for that question. So what's your go-to, what's your regular, and what's your favorite? And then under supports and feelings, how does your practice or activity support you? How does it support you? Because you might think of a negative one. A negative one might show up. How is it supporting you? Because there's a reason why you're doing it. It's supporting you in some kind of way. It might be helpful to know a little bit more about how it's supporting you, so maybe you can dismantle it a little bit better to do something healthier for you. And then how do you feel about your overall wound or self-tending? That's where, okay, I've gotten this information. How do I feel about that? How do I feel about the fact that all of my favorite go-to things are actually bringing me a little bit more pain or a little bit more discomfort or a little bit more of what I don't want? How do I feel about that? So come into your emotional perception of what you're doing. So that's your set of questions.
Yeah. I was looking at them questions, Mike, and and I'm glad that question kind of came up, because I was like, ooh, when you talk about what is that normal, or what is your your go-to? I think for a lot of people, that initial go-to ain't always the healthiest, or at least at some stages, they're like, ooh, it ain't the healthiest thing to go through. That's why I ask the question a lot of times when we're talking about healing and things. I always ask, and a lot of you guys here that participate in any of my groups, or any of you that I see privately, I ask the question all the time: what's happening in you? What's happening in you? What behaviors are coming from you? What are you noticing going on, with you as you're facing those things? Because, we're gonna respond some kind of way. And so that tending, we're going to try to soothe some kind of way, or we're going to try to heal some kind of, or we're going to do something in response to what we're experiencing within us most of the time. But yeah, that first one, whew,
right,
it can get us.
Right, it can so get us.
Yeah, it can get us. But because this is a family station, I'm gonna keep it PG. Go ahead.
Denard, what was floating
I'm not gonna
around
tell
in you
Denard's
when you
business.
came across this?
Y'all wilding. Hey, I can't see that. I can't see the chat, so Denard's not going to be chat featured, because I know if I get kicked out of this I want to say this concert I want to get put back in. I didn't get the stamp on my finger or my arm. So I will say what came up for me, man, is so there's the nuance in it, right? Even with what Czar just talked about, I think my go-to wound or self-tending technique changed over time and depended on like whether I experienced this wound for the first time, whether it was a revisiting of a wound, like, and a lot of people know I tend to be more in terms of like a connector. So with heartbreak, it was really where my mind went when I looked at this. And I would say the now is different than the yesterday for me, right? Because my experience with wounds, and it all depends on how I define wounds too, right? Whether it's collective or individual, or whether I'm in that victim state where I think it's because there's self-tending, but there's self-inflicting wounds too, right?
Right.
And so for me, I would say the thing that came up to me, I'm gonna be just completely transparent. Like when I was doing this, I'm actually about to enter in the shower, and then here comes God like dropping all this stuff to me. And I remember like for me, what came up was I was hearing, and I wrote it. Hold on, let me find it. I wrote down my response to your stuff, the prompts very quick. So I wrote down, listen, this is what came up for me. And I wrote down, our trauma seeks us to forget or suppress. Our trials help us to surrender, and our triumphs helps us to remember, right? That's exactly what I wrote, right? And what I'm saying is my go-to was to activate, and I didn't even know this until we did this, like activate faith to some extent, right? But what I realized is it depends on what I loved that was my go-to in that time. So if my wound was from heartbreak, my go-to was to go to the person that broke my heart, right? And now because that wound, I've incurred so much infliction and self-infliction now from it. Now I know that I can, instead of fight, flight, freeze in those moments, in those wounds, the way I tend is by activating my faith, or I just do nothing, right? And I'm comfortable in that space now.
I want to be like you when I grow up.
You're not old. I thought you were like Moses in the Bible age.
Oh God, dog it.
Oh, he didn't throw a Methuselah at you.
He did do that. He did do that. And in this old age, in this old age, I still ebb and flow. Like in this old age, like some of my because I agree with you, Denard. Like mine too is my go-tos now are a lot more consistently healthy than what it was before. Because previously, man, it was I'm just feeling my things, this breakup, this whatever this thing I'm all in my feelings. And not just in my feelings, I'm in my feelings and in reactions that either, like you said, inflict more pain, or that is just not helpful, or trying to find short-term energy relieving behaviors. I remember, and I've shared this before, moving to Vegas, coming here when I'm depressed, I have to mind when I start feeling depressed mood, if it's going too far, things that come from my behavior that look nothing like me, and then recognizing that I'm trying to, what we call in grief recovery, we call them short-term energy relieving behaviors. And so I've gotten caught in those kind of things. My life looked like promiscuity. It looked like it was things that just really, and if you knew me and knew how I identify just sexually and things like that, that's nothing like me. It's like but it almost becomes this other way to try to hide in something or find something to try to soothe or try to find something to try to heal myself. But it ends up being something that's not helpful or whatever. Now I have new ways, and this is what I try to teach even in with my clients and even here on Circle, some of the things that we kind of lay out, new ways to kind of navigate that way. But I'm more consistent now with that. Praise the Lord. Hallelujah. Thank you.
Yeah.
This is good. This is good. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah. What about you, Mike? What about yours?
Yeah,
Mm,
come on, Mike.
yeah. Yeah, mine, I really, from a couple of different sessions I've done before, I think I even had a couple of rooms on it, but I'm a number. My go-to
Mhm.
has been whatever is going to numb. And
Mm,
that, so it's like, sugar, ingestibles, all of those things where it's like if it can numb me and suppress all of this sensitivity that I'm feeling, then I can be okay. That used to be my go-to. Now it's interesting because like got go-to for me has like become this signature practice that I always share with folks. Shit, I might as well go ahead and put it in the chat right now. Um,
Yeah.
but it's this way of pausing, pausing
mm.
myself. It's three alarms that I put in my phone,
Oh
two
yeah.
minutes, and then one prompt. And like just, but it was cool that you had said earlier, Azar, that you asked that question, what's happening in you? Because
Mhm.
that's the question, that's the prompt that I aim my curiosity in. If I get myself, I do this practice, and it gets me to a place of when I get flooded, when I get activated, triggered, when I get volatile and eruptive, I have this to draw on at 2 minutes at a time, at least. Okay, what's happening here? Where is it happening? What's coming up? What are all the voices that are swirling around it? What am I seeing? How is it bending my perception? All of those things that can happen in an emotional storm. And so now my go-to has been to just like I institute this in my day so
Mhm.
that when the crises come, I can deal with them with all of my resource and all of this practice that I have. Oh, I know
Mhm.
this terrain. I know what to do when it happens like this. So that's been I've shifted from numbing to going into the sensitivities, being with the sensitivities more and being present with it. So I don't just immediately numb and dissociate, numb
Mhm.
and distance.
And I would imagine that took practice in building that in you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 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 most
Mm.
definitely. Yeah. That's what, and I think the importance of that is you all is just like really looking at how consistency really, one of the things that I use with just, y'all know a lot of my work is around authenticity, absolutely, but it's renewing our mind and all those kind of things and those pieces. And so one of the things I use, I borrowed from Dr. Caroline Leaf, the 5-step neurocycle process. And so we speak about that a lot of times and just changing our mind, not just coping with everything in the way of finding a coping mechanism to
Hmm.
deal with things, but actually really, because healing, again, when we talk about healing, healing means return to wholeness. And so a lot of times we can fall into these places of just trying to get this relief for a second, but we never return. And
Right.
so you know what I'm
Right.
saying? And so then we have this incompletion that ends up happening. One of the things I love even with grief recovery, we talk about just getting complete, getting emotionally complete, because all of this is going to always be about returning to wholeness. But in
Hmm.
order to start building that, I guess you could call it muscle memory, or just that making it easier to be the go-to, we have to, just like we've been programmed to respond in the negative way, you have to program in this new way. And it comes
Hmm.
through us they say faith comes not by having heard, it comes by hearing, which means that I have to hear it and hear it and hear it and hear it and do it and do it and do it and do it until I begin to build that as a lifestyle or as a way of living and a way of
Right.
existing.
Hmm.
My first thought now, I used to have a really huge anger problem, a huge anger issue. Do you know that because I do the work that I do now, all of my stuff is around relationality and love and all these other things? Love is honestly the first thing that comes to my mind now. What's the loving way to respond? That's because this is how actually, I don't even want to say, I've uncovered all of the things that was blocking that.
Right. Ooh.
And so now
Uh-huh.
I've returned to what wholeness really looks like. Now I ain't gonna tell you I always respond in it, but
Oh.
but it is definitely, it's one of the first things that comes to my mind now. So you all, you hear us talk about these things in circles, and it's not a one and done, or we gave you a tip and a tool and then you just run with it. And you have to actually do this. They say that
Hmm.
for neuroplasticity to actually really change your brain, it takes 63 days,
Hmm.
all right, to actually change your brain. Some people stop at 21. 21, you've only planted the seed. But it's still weak. If you stop right there, that's probably a very dangerous place. The seed's going to die. But so moving on those rest of those days to really put this in us, or to really wire our brain to it. It's already in you, but really to rewire our brains in regards to this. So just wanted to highlight that piece of just how that practice is going to be important. We got a few hands here. Let's see what they are saying with their things. Z, go ahead. You all make sure you're being mindful of your time as you're speaking, but go ahead, Z.
Hello, Zara. Hello, Denard.
Hey.
Hello, Mike. Hello, everybody. So great to be here amongst everybody.
Hello.
I'm going to be brave, even though I know this is recorded, and I'm going to state it, what's coming up for me. So that way I can hold myself accountable if I ever forget to. It's recorded. Right. It's down. I can't, pretend like that never happened. I never.
It's like putting it in writing. That's right.
Yeah. So yeah, here goes this. I find my go-to wound is that if I shine too bright, I'm going to get captured and I'm going to be punished for it. And my go-to is I fawn and I disassociate. I assume the position here, take advantage of me, and I'm just going to play nice. That's my go-to when that happens. But I find now that I'm doing the work with my healing, I am holding myself more accountable, regardless of who comes my way and what situation comes up. I'm going to shine even if I'm shaking while shining. I'm going to continue shining because that's what I'm here to do. And if anybody comes to me that tries to mishandle or take advantage of it, I have the right to say no, thank you. No, thank you. No, thank you. And it's been coming up over and over recently for me. So I'm going to continuously push through, keep on shining. Thank you.
Okay. I thought you was going to say you punch him. Darn it.
Sometimes I want to, but I don't. I don't want to shine in jail. I want to shine in the normal world.
Wisdom. What was you saying, Mike? Was that Mike or Denard?
Well, if it's Barry White deep and it's sexy, it's me. And if it's kind of choppier, but
you better stop.
All right. No jokes. All jokes aside, going back to what Z said real quick. Shouldn't we? How many of us practice? Like, I think we unconsciously do the yes, and we don't practice the no, thank you, right? Until we've been wounded, right? And I think about, like, when you think about that shining, and Z, the stars, they shine regardless of where they are, right? And that's the beauty of it too. Whether they're in the prison cell, but they also know what their function is, right? And so I like what you're saying here in terms of, even with what we were talking about, like the rewiring, right? Part of it is a casual aspect of rewiring is understanding that I don't have to be motivated to be disciplined. Ooh. Right. And I think you're getting at that, like, I just need to say no, thank you. Right. And part of our motivation when we're fawning is to make people feel good, or to feel good about people feeling good. But no, thank you, right, is a discipline we can practice that rewires our brain, that says I'm worth what I'm saying yes to. And I'm also worth giving people opportunity to know that this is not for me. You're not for me. Not this season. This connection is not what I need, because it dims my light, right? And so I think that that's a discipline, at least in my takeaway from what you said, is that that discipline helps me to believe in me, right? That no, thank you.
Yeah. And I'm gonna add to that piece that the part, what I love about that no thank you with thank you onto it, that's assertiveness displayed. Assertiveness, right? It's communicating what I need while respecting the other person. Now listen, I know you got something going on, but I don't want to participate in that. No, thank you though. I think that's, believe it or not, I really believe that's important to our hearts. That even when we're setting our boundaries, that we still consider other people that we're in that we're on this planet with. That there be that piece taken into consideration. Because again, this is talking about returning to wholeness, not just returning to yourself and everything being about you, but returning to all of that connectivity in the world and actually displaying what that looked like. So that what I heard in that was that with the thank you piece to it was assertion, what real assertiveness really looks like. Yeah. Eva?
So one thing I actually wanted to, for me, I'm kind of the same as Czar in some aspects where it kind of depends on which part of myself I'm I'm living in. And right now I'm also definitely moving and I'm actively changing my life so I can live in a more faith-based part of myself and in my life. But so now I would say that, oh my goodness, my go-to is probably prayer. When I'm finding that I feel weak, or if I'm feeling hurt, or if I'm feeling like I may not have the capacity on my own because of the kind of life I've had, especially most recently, I'm very singular. I don't really have a ton of contacts in person, just out of need. So I pray a lot. My my regular self tending, I would probably say gym. I go to the gym a lot. And my favorite is I write a lot of poetry and I journal a lot because it does help with my self reflection. It helps with me calling myself on my shit. And it helps keep me in the faith based portion of my heart and in my life so I can be, it allows me to be kind to myself. When I go back and I read through things, I'm able to examine areas where you can actually see that I'm not following where I should in that thought process to lead me to a healthy outcome or like, a better pattern of sleep or feeling better about myself or somebody else. So, yeah. And I used to sit in like not the soft, loving, faith-based portion of myself, but I used to sit very much in. I still I've always been kind, but now my resource is prayer, self-reflection, and calling myself on my shit. Before it was being kind, putting things outside of myself, and then just straight to
Mm.
violence, maybe.
Mm, 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 mm. Wow, thanks for that. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah. Jalen, go ahead. Jalen, you might be muted. Are you muted?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
Welcome to Circles, bro. If you
Yeah.
ain't muted and started to, that's your initiation right there to
This
Circles.
our haze. This our haze week.
That's right.
I clicked the hand and I thought it unmuted. No. No, one of the wounds I've been tending to that really sort of took a large healing process over the last year was neglect and invalidation and not feeling like my thoughts matter, not feeling like my feelings matter. And part of the real work and the challenge that I use to practice now when I notice those thoughts creeping in is recognizing them almost as if it's like a cloud passing by and not letting that cloud get bigger and bigger and bigger and just hyper focusing on it um and just recognizing the cognitive distortion that that thought might create. Am I having this all or nothing thinking? Am I labeling this wrong? And what helps me identify it is I just write it out. What am I feeling right now? What am I thinking right now? And usually I kind of see the illogical reasoning in that thought getting me to a point where I feel depressed. I feel like I want to self-isolate because I deserve to self-isolate. I deserve to be depressed. But in reality, I'm creating that perception. And part of meeting those needs is kind of talking to myself, like, I'll write what I initially think and then read that over and then see that as, oh, that's a child who was wounded. That's someone who didn't get his needs met, and what would you say to that child if he was really saying this to you right now? And I would write out, oh no, you deserve to be loved, you're worthy of so much, you are so rare, you are so strong, you've been through something. Like, just writing that out positively and affirming that for myself, that motivates me to get out of that mindset and just really say, you know what, my thoughts matter, I can fulfill my own needs, I don't need to seek that out through attention or admiration from someone else.
Love it. I love it. Love it. Yeah. Monique, go ahead. And then Loretta, and then we'll
Oh
get
my
back to
God,
it.
Jalen really just touched on pretty much everything. Yeah, that's what I suffered. Well, neglect and abandonment issues and abuse issues, emotionally abuse issues, and the way I learned to cope with it is reading and journaling. And before I got on my healing journey, I used to feel like running to the person that were making me feel like that would actually heal me. Um, and then I realized that it was doing nothing but damaging me more. So I tapped into start doing a lot of research on different things and started reading a lot, journaling, praying, fasting. I'm big on fasting and surrounding myself around help groups. This is how I'm here today, but I have other groups as well that I attend. I travel and go to different motivation groups and things like that to actually try to find myself. So the journey that I'm trying to find now myself is who I'm really am.
Mm,
How to not be so codependent on the abuser, not to be so codependent on the ones that cause the trauma.
mm,
Because that was one of my triggers of responding to emotional, like keeping my emotions in line and responding to um bad behavior of people who's being mean. And so I'm learning to how to keep all of that in line. It's not easy, but this is what I do. But journaling and reading, meditating and praying and fasting is definitely what keeps me in line and keep me balanced. I fall short some days because it's not easy, but if someone, like, my triggers is basically having the wrong minded people around me or negative energy.
okay.
So
Gotcha. 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 Thanks for sharing that with us.
mhm.
Mm. Loretta.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, cool. So something that I've been kind of working on was being mindful and being present. I think that it's really important um to practice, especially like what when I'm like majorly triggered. I have to kind of imagine like what my life is like now and why I feel triggered and what it was like before I kind of had some of this trauma. And what's kind of been really like empowering for me is realizing that um, I have the power to kind of change like my own thought patterns and my behaviors and how I feel towards something by like kind of accepting more of the situation. And for me, like I had to accept that I had a whole life before I was with this other person and I was giving them the power. And when I realized I had the power to take it back, and I realized that in my head, the power that I had was keeping them there. I had to kind of like take what I was using to like heal and kind of instead of like being parallel to what I was using, I kind of had to like break out of the plane and go like a completely different way. And like just like break like the fourth wall or something and just like kind of realize that like I am who I am and my life is what it is and I created that and nobody else. And just remembering that really keeps me going because it's helped me kind of take the power away from other people who are controlling me in my life and realize that like I am driving the ship and I can, choose whatever I want to do all of the time. And that's just intentionally what I've been trying to be mindful of. Yeah, so thank you.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you. Fellas. Oh, yeah. Any thoughts, gentlemen?
I'll let Mike go first. 'Cause I definitely want to get to the thoughts. I have a lot of thoughts. Just know that. First thought was I'm confused. I didn't know Loretta knew how to drive, but I'm glad you got control of your life, sweetheart. I'm happy. But go ahead, Mike.
The thing that really captured me was multiple of y'all were talking about journaling. And what's interesting about the journaling is that there's this version that I like to offer folks and invite folks into. It's audio journaling, which is essentially using your voice in your own body, your own emotions, instead of just your pen to express what you need to express from the inside out. It's hitting record on your phone or whatever device you're going to record with, and just letting your story or your expression out. It's essentially tapping into the same kind of magic that we tap into here in circles, except for in circles, you're tapping into a collective container and being able to express, and then getting feedback from just in the container and the holding and the facilitation, etc. But with yourself, you're engaging so much of your own perspective, your own voice, your own body into this expression. And then when you listen back, when slash if you were to ever listen back, you then change your relationship to that expression from just a cascade of intellectual voices telling you why you're not supposed to feel that way, or trying to edit it as it's coming out, to now you're listening to your story and feeling all of those feelings of compassion and everything that you feel for everybody else. So you're changing even your relationship with yourself just by putting that voice out there and then listening to yourself back to go, oh, I didn't even see it that way because I was too far in those other voices echoing back at me. And so this journaling that folks are speaking of, and how it accesses the ability to change, it's like you have to know what's there for you to be able to change it. And not only know what's there, you actually have to go there to change it. You can't change it from a distance. And that's one of the things that we've missed, as like all the things that we learn and get conditioned with, is that we're supposed that we change like machines, but we don't. To Czar's point, to Denard's point, to so many of our points, it's all about the practice and tending to ourselves more like plants than like machines can change things with that little bit of, oh, let me change the relationship that I have with myself, rather than just using the ways that I've been taught by other people relating to me in these other ways.
Mm-hmm.
That's good. That's good. I keep getting kicked out of this app, and I'm about to have to change something. But
Really?
I keep getting kicked out. But I'm gonna say I like what you said, that this is so incredible. Even here in Jalen, like a lot of times we want, and this is so deep what you shared, Mike. I didn't know you. I knew you got a deep voice, but I didn't know you were this deep, man, bro. We want. Listen, this is huge. Like in terms of change and behavior patterns and modeling messages. And this all connects, by the way, you all goes back to what Zar talked about, and inspiration being in spirit and being with our breath, returning to wholeness. All these concepts, like we can't do it from a distance, right? You can love from a distance, right? You can love from a distance, but even proximity begets a reality that changes the behavior that you've been accustomed to. So what you're kind of really getting at here is like we want breath in terms of like we want to be able to breathe. And I would even challenge something you said, Zara, in a good way though. I think sometimes the problem when we're revisiting some regular or go-to wounds, we're looking for, and this is where the addiction stuff come in, and sometimes my unpleasant coping. We're looking for something new. And I was challenged, right? Because God was like, maybe you need just a fresh perspective. You might need to go back to, here's your point. This is why I think you're so, what you're saying adds depth to everything here. Because if we can't heal from a distance, we need proximity. Then that also means we can also return to what was original. So even when we were talking, come on now. Even what we were talking about earlier, I was thinking, I saw Mike. I saw 12-year-old Czar, And I was like, bruh, in my mind, I was like, but we knew how to heal differently when we were younger.
Mhm.
It was the unsafe people that ruptured us. It was
Right.
modeling the behaviors and the patterns of those that didn't heal or weren't
Mhm.
focused on their
Yes.
healing. You get what I'm saying? And so I'm like,
Yes.
Uh-huh.
it's so. I'm gonna stop because y'all. I'm telling you, I have so much I want to share. I'm
Why
gonna
why
just
you
stop.
gonna stop though? Why
Yeah,
you gonna
because
Yeah,
stop
this
though? Because
yeah,
now
what
it
you
got
gonna
it's
stop
deeper.
good.
for?
I'm
It got me as a
activated.
little
I'm
kid just
activated.
screaming my ass off because it's like, hey, I got stuff to scream about inside of me, and I know that's what I'm
Yes.
supposed to do. Why you telling me to be quiet?
Be
Uh,
activated.
that's so much, man.
You
Like,
you you
Yeah.
go ahead, bro. Please
you
go.
no
Please
you're
go.
hitting you're hitting right on it, even with the thing of talking about being original and coming to these particular spaces. What we don't realize ends up happening in this thing. You're a lot of us are, and I was writing this as somebody was saying, we end up being forced into having to develop these personalities that cover up our true identity.
My
That's what
God.
happens with trauma. You traumatize, and then our body, everything responds this way. We create a personality to deal with what we're facing. And what happens is, unfortunately, sometimes that pulls us away from the original. It pulls us away. There was nothing wrong with the original, but
Not a
because it
damn thing.
Woo!
exactly, but because of that breach, whatever that thing that was happening, we didn't have the language, we didn't know what to do, we didn't know how to stay holding on to ourselves. We had to create a personality to deal with the breach. And unfortunately, what happens in a lot of these personalities being created, not that a personality is bad, we all have a personality, but that personality needs to be serving the seat of the original. And if it's
My
not
God.
serving the seat of the original, we're basically living in survival mode, and we're being driven by personalities, things that we've picked up from other people. You notice it when you go back to childhood. You say, "Oh, my family didn't talk about emotions," but you felt them. You
Yeah,
felt
right.
them, but y'all didn't
Right.
talk about them. So then you develop the kind of personality that suppresses them. You develop the kind of personality that is silent about them, but yet you're screaming inside. And so a lot of us end up on the personality side of the thing. The word personality comes from the word persona, which simply means mask.
Mm.
All right. And we gotta always ask ourselves, is this the original me, or is this the conditioned me? Is this the programmed me? Is this the personality I had to be to survive?
Now
And
look who
that's
activated.
I'm activated. I am activated. This gets me activated because my biggest longing, bro, is that we would heal for real, that
Uh-huh.
we will
Mm,
return. Healing is not even something for, it's a return to
mm,
who and how we were designed. God didn't make us wrong.
mm. Come
Listen.
Even when we
on.
think about relationships and things like that, and I know it gets a bad rap, but relationships are not God's plan B. They're actually plan A for our thriving. And so if we never come to the place of returning to it, returning to what connection truly looks like, being authentically you, though, returning to that connection, you didn't heal, you just hardened, or you developed another personality to
Mercy.
try to protect you. And do you know what? Y'all notice that they're called personality disorders? It's not a
Mm.
spirit disorder. It's not a
No.
core self
Hey,
Mm.
disorder.
hey, hey,
They're
hey, hey, hey,
personality
Mm.
hey,
disorders.
hey,
And
hey,
at
hey.
some point, the
You,
soul
Mm.
recognizes I done created 12
Mm.
personalities to try to protect me from all of these breaches
Jesus.
in my life. And then we wonder where all of these things like multiple person or
Sorry.
dissociative personality disorder comes from.
Mm.
I'm sorry.
Somebody
Sorry, I'm
mute
activated.
says mute Zara, mute yourself. Like stop.
Hmm.
I would
I'm
throw a
muted.
chair.
That's right, Jalen. Bars.
He want to
Bars.
throw chairs.
My goodness. I was not ready. See, that's why I
Bucket
did
you,
not want
Buck.
to join. I did not want to join because of this. Like it takes me at least an hour after these sessions to decompress. I did not want to join because of this. Oh Lord. I'm going on mute.
Well, I'm on mute too. Mike, take over.
All right, yeah. Everybody go ahead and breathe into that. Breathe in that fire that is flowing in you and around you right now. It's the quiet part out loud. And let me put even more context on that. It's only quiet in the loud places that don't want that voice to be heard. So In the peaceful places, oh, we hear that all the time because we know that. So I'm going to say this. We have 5 minutes left. And Czar was teasing with y'all in the very beginning that this was the last question mark. This ain't the last, y'all. We got one more coming next week. Next week is all going to be about the Q&A. Y'all bring y'all questions. Y'all bring y'all things that y'all want to have, kind of like the sensational, relational, inspirational, healing journey trio dig into. Bring those things next week, same time. And just to let y'all know, there's a little rumblings that these three might even put together a little podcast. And so this is going to be kind of like a way to see if y'all would be interested in something like that. Just checking.
Yes.
Just something that might be,
Yes.
Yes.
good
Yes.
for
Yes.
circles, good
Yes.
for the people, good for healing, for the healing journey. For all of us to be able to like look at things in the ways that we haven't been taught to look at things. The information and the genius is out here. You hear it, you feel it, you have it. Shit. Let's go ahead and put a little amplification on it.
Wow. I know y'all had those hands up. Can y'all go real quick? Them hands that's up there. Can y'all go real quick and give us an opportunity to hear y'all and then close? I'm activated. Sorry. Go ahead, Neha. Go ahead, Neha. Yeah.
Thank you, guys. I'll make it really brief. In line with what Mike was saying about, thank you again for this amazing, beautiful space. I feel that my go-to space is something which is going to be mind, body, soul healing, not just tending to my physical pain alone or tending to, it's just like Mike said, that we create all these different personas and personalities to deal with different pains and different people and different situations. I just look at it as you go, I have personal experience, went to an eye doctor for my daughter at 13 and taking care of her eyes, went to her heart, took care of her heart, went to her breasts, took care of her breasts, went to, so anyways, it's just we're healing one thing and it affects the other. And that is not all inclusive healing. It's not holistic healing. I feel that we all, at least I do it that way, where if I'm having any issues, I make sure that it's an all inclusive. On an inclusive basis, not excluding myself away from the universal consciousness. So it's a mind, body, soul healing. It's a holistic healing, and that way I'm not hurting other areas of my life by just tending to my body, tending to my mind, tending to my heart, tending to my just faith and spiritual practices. It has to be mind, body, soul synchronization. Thank you again, and I'll get off.
Thank you so much, Neha. Sensational, relational, inspirational, mind, body, soul, all those pieces. Go ahead, Kathy.
My wound was being neglected, feeling unwanted, and like there was no time for me. So my go-to initially was, well, I'm going to try to do things to make people pay attention to me or to like me. So it was people pleasing. And then it went to, I would, well, as I was in like not good relationships, I would have a reaction in my stomach, feeling like butterflies or knots or something like that whenever I did something wrong or bad or whatever. And that feeling was so unsettling, but in my family, we couldn't speak, about our feelings or anything like that. And so the only thing that would make that stop was eating.
Mm. Hmm.
So, and not the good things that were good for you, but, like cake, candy, stuff like that.
That's good for you.
Um,
Oh, my bad. Go ahead.
not in the quantities in which I
Good to you.
was
Yeah. Go ahead.
partaking. Um, and then as I got older, so that quelled the little that feeling, like eating.
Mhm.
So that took care of if I have a bad feeling or a bad day, then I'm gonna stuff it down. But if you
Mhm.
stuff it down, it creates that and
Mhm.
then you have to do something about that
Mhm.
um and it's and so I have, and then I would do it to myself.
Yeah.
Like if I felt like I wanted to have a binge or whatever, I could ruminate on something. Well, my relationship was trash, so there was always something. And I would catastrophize. Oh my gosh, if this happens, if this happens, if that happens, then I have the knots in my stomach of my own creation that I then had to do something about,
Yep. Yep.
which was the bad, habit. And so now I stopped and I started saying positive things about myself.
Mhm.
I have it written
Awesome.
down, have a list.
Mhm.
I And if I find myself being critical of myself or of someone else, which I also have a bad habit of doing, I say the word no, and then I say the word love.
There you go.
And then it resets. And it's like, okay, no, obviously that's judgmental or whatever, or that's not true. And then you say love, and then it will accuse my mind to go to that place.
Yes. That's your original self.
Yes.
That's your original. Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yep. Eva, really quick. Oh, where'd she go? Did she leave? She probably left.
No, she's there.
I'm here. Sorry, I was just having I put my hand down just in case y'all want to get out of here.
We do want to get out of here, but I know
Okay,
your
so
hand
when
was up.
the
So
thing I was saying that I put it in the chat, but I think when people that are unhealthy and they start doing seriously unhealthy, really hard things, it consumes the beginning part of where we come from, like the innocence, the kindness, the goodness, the purity.
yes.
Those things get consumed. So there is not that part of you to go back to. It's not there. It's almost like that part of their soul is gone.
No,
It's
she's
covered.
covered.
It's covered.
Covered. Uh,
Hmm. That makes
when
sense. It's deeply covered up. Our authentic self is always with us. Your essence, the essence of your being is always with you.
and what would you say? Because I'm pretty sensitive to people, and I realized that I was with my ex because I almost got nothing from him. I
Hmm.
didn't really get any undercurrent. I didn't really get a whole lot of emotional response. It was
Hmm.
literally like there was nothing inside there.
Yeah, it's probably there, but deeply covered. Deeply covered. That's how deep these things really goes, I think. And again, this is also where you start to see disorders. Like everybody is not mentally ill, but this can lead to mental illness to some degree. And when you're looking at a mentally ill person, it sometimes seems like, oh my gosh, where did they go? And they're in there. But it takes a lot of therapy. It takes really doing the work. It takes some eyes being open, maybe even some miracles, to really get to that core essence of our being. But I believe the essence of our being, when I talk about authenticity, talk about our spirit, we talk about our core self, we're talking about the essence of our being. It's there. It's just often covered up and didn't see any rewards in being itself. And this is what we're guarding against here while you all are in circles, is because you're guarding your heart with diligence, not protecting your heart when nothing gets in and nothing gets out. but guarding it to keep it flowing the way it was designed to flow.
I did. I left Mike because there's some other things that I went through, and I told him that I would let him know the context of what I went through. He can read those messages, and
Mhm.
then and then he can tell me, because it's literally, I am, I
Ava,
I realize that there's just not, like, he was missing something, and that sounds really terrible and horrible and mean, and I'm not generally that person, ever. But it was, I've never, like, there was a few times even when we were intimate that
Ava.
you
I
look
understand.
me. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah.
Was that Mike?
Yes, yes, it was. I did. I did get the story, and what I'm gonna say is that we won't be resharing or
No,
trying to or bringing that
no, 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 no,
here.
no, 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 none
What I
of
will
that.
say
Absolutely not.
what I will say is what I said at the time. I still believe.
Yeah. Yeah, I've never looked at somebody in the face and then had them feel like there was nothing behind their eyes. And then it was like automatically they put on like a person suit, when I was like, what is going on? You literally, I don't know what
That's
this is, but this is scary.
yeah,
And it was like they put their normal face back on, and you're like, holy.
yeah. But that's how deep, Ava. That's how deep this stuff gets.
Mhm.
And believe it or not, it's what we all will do if something doesn't intervene. If we don't allow our core self to intervene, this is what happens to us. We don't even know ourselves, and the other people don't even know us anymore. That's why this stuff is so important. That we guard our heart with diligence, because from it flows the well springs of our life. And it has to be holistic, like Nehal was saying. We got to look at all pieces of this, because that's the true return to wholeness. Any final thoughts, gentlemen?
I have many, honestly. I'm going to make it brief. I think you all inspired me to, and I'm just going to start backwards from hearing Ava share. That I shared this earlier in the room. Just for those, just as a resource, one of my favorite poems. Actually, if it's not my favorite poem, it is one close to the top three. It's by David Wagner. It's Lost. Um, it's a poem. It's a poem that kind of gets at, it comes across with sensationalism in terms of it puts you in the space of where people would generally talk about being lost in the woods and forestry, and but it also puts you with your breath. And I think this is very important when we're talking about the connection to the sensing, the relational. This goes back to what Zar was talking about last time. One of my favorite, another resource I'm going to share with you all. One of my favorite, I think it's Pastor Bell, Robert Bell. He has this ministry that's called Pneuma, breath, and he talks about the concept. Just, and this is important in terms of that whole concept of loss. So, my favorite line in the poem is, "Wherever you are is called here." Right. When we were looking for Ava, I said she's there. She said, "I'm here." Right. So what we once thought was lost, and I won't go too much into the spiritual, but the Bible kind of gets at that a lot. Like, the question is, to what extent is the thing lost, right? And a lot of times when we talk, my purpose in life is to combat suicide and not suicide ideation. I want to see a world without suicide. And a lot of times you will hear the old saints say, when they're losing that sense of hope, when it's beyond helplessness, they're like, I'm losing my mind, right? And so a lot of times what you will see in the biblical sense, when that coming to self, right? King Nebuchadnezzar had this, prodigal son had this. The Bible literally says they returned to themselves. They learned the end of their ways. To the world, they look lost, right? But to God, in essence, they found him, right? He looks up to heaven and he then declares that here is my God, right? Without questioning, unequivocal, beyond a shadow of doubt. So some of the things we do go through, so there's a distinction between I lost connection to someone, right? I
Mhm.
lost connection to my God, right? And then there's a lost connection to oneself. And
Mhm.
what I do here, and the final thing I would say, in terms of, I don't know who said it, but their go-to is prayer. I think Eva was the one that said it too. But going even deeper in terms of what Robert Bell says, he's essentially, we take around 26,000 breaths a day, right? But are we aware of that, right? Are we aware of that? And this is where Mike's work becomes very important, because when we really think about the prayer in terms of that faith discipline, right? It essentially becomes the breath of the soul of heaven here on earth, right? And so what we start to recognize is that prayer teaches us how to breathe. Crying teaches us how to breathe,
Yes.
right? And so when we return to ourselves, we return to what you essentially see they do when a child enters into a world where all they used to hear is moving through the womb, right? Not the wound, the womb. They
Mhm.
start to recognize that the first thing to give that sign of life that already existed to the world is to get them a chance to breathe again, right? And breathe in the world that sometimes they may feel that is trying to take that breath. So my thing is that what I found in this conversation is we can breathe new life into things that seem lost, right? But it starts with us, not the
Yeah.
connection with them. It starts with us, right? Where we can come back to ourselves and say, thank God I did not lose my mind, because that thing
Mhm.
tried to take me out. I can
Mhm.
breathe again. So I'll stop
Mhm.
here.
Mhm. Mike.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love how the weaving takes place in all this, because taking in that breath, I have it. It's the go-to anchor that I have for myself, and that I bring to the rooms that I do, especially on Saturday and Sunday at noon Eastern. The breath is one of those things where out of those 20,000 breaths that we're taking, we're gonna at least in this hour catch a few hundred of them, hopefully, right? And that being able to slow our time down enough, because we're not thinking about the even the very next thing that we're doing, or the thing after this hour. We're more about this next moment and this next breath. Then in that slowness, you can start to pick up on all of the stuff that's actually happening, all the thoughts that are really slow, swirling around, all the sensations that are actually happening in the body, and everything like that. And tying that all the way into what we started at the very beginning. We're talking about returning to wholeness. And when you were talking about returning to wholeness before, my mind was thinking about all the detours that we take, and even linking that to the personalities that we end
Mhm.
up embodying to face the work, to face this parent, to face that parent, to face this sibling, to face that group of people, to face our social media presence, I mean, all of these different detours from ourselves that we are taking to fulfill these other different relationships. And that a lot of these unfinished detours are like leaks of effort and energy and capacity, because we're always maintaining them even if we're not in front of those people. We just have those leaking detours out there that is, as we're doing this kind of work, slowing down, being with, tending to comprehensively and in a focused way, we come across these detours. Oh, this is an
Mhm.
open detour. Let me go ahead and either cut that detour off, or go ahead and finish that route. If I
Mhm.
finish that route, I might even be able to take the learning from that, be able to integrate some things that I was moving toward, that wasn't necessarily as healthy for me as I needed to be. So I need to fold that effort back into myself, and then reinvest that detour back into myself. Now I'm back on the main road. I'm back to that wholeness. And now what other detours do I need to close? If I close all of those, then I can really feel where it's like, oh, all right, now I have all of this whole, because not parts of me are
Mhm.
dedicated to creating some whole
Mhm.
personality, some whole detour that is not me, just so I can maintain that.
Yeah. Wow. Oh, wow, folks. I hope y'all have enjoyed this. Hope you've enjoyed. Hope you've enjoyed it. Hopefully it's been supportive for you in some type of way. And like we said, next week we have the bonus session next week. So bring your questions. And man, brothers, thank y'all, man. Thank
Yeah,
y'all.
man.
Y'all, I'm gonna mess around and get healed dealing with y'all. Be done mess around and get better or something. I really, 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 truly appreciate you all. I appreciate these last couple of weeks, and all of you all here on Circles. I appreciate you all for just, being in this space with us, sharing your stories and all of those things. Because really, you never know what piece of your share, what piece of what you're saying, just they may not hear it all the time the way I say it, the way Denard said it, the way Mike say it. But even your share sometimes, even your question sometimes just hits people right at the core of their heart. And it helps them to make that pivot, to say, I got to return to my wholeness. I got to really come back to that space of healing. So
Yeah.
I appreciate y'all. I have love for y'all.
Likewise.
Hope y'all will be the same for me. And if you enjoyed the session, again, as always, let Circles know. If you have any complaints whatsoever, just send them to Denard, and he'll take all of your complaints and he'll throw them away somewhere, put them under a rock or something like that. He might do something with
Wait,
them. Yeah,
what happened to what happened? Was it Chick-fil-A? I
yeah,
need the
but
numbers.
Chick-fil-A ain't giving us no. I decided that they wasn't giving us no funding, so
Oh, no paid advertising. Okay, I got it. I
yeah,
got it.
yeah. But you
Okay,
still
I
could
got
call Chick-fil-A if y'all need to. If you got any complaints, it'll be their pleasure to take care of any of your complaints. Y'all make me silly. I'm a really serious person, you all. All right. So anyway, I appreciate y'all. I appreciate the space with y'all. Real talk. It's good to share space with people who are trying to heal. All right.
Yes.
All right, y'all. I will holler at y'all later. See y'all next week. Same bat time, same bat channel, same circle.
Yeah.
And
Good stuff.
until then, hold on to yourselves, people. Peace.
Yeah, take care of yourselves.
Bye, baby.
Bye, baby. Love that. I just love it. I love it. I love it.
Bye.
Peace, y'all. Peace. I love it.
Beautiful. So beautiful.